Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodlenits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Pattern Design Circle podcast, and welcome to episode 5. We are talking all about having fun in your business and doing what you love. And I'm so excited to have my first guest for the podcast here, Kinsey from Feel Good Social.
Yay! Thank you so much for bringing me on, Jessica. I'm seriously so excited to be a part of this, and wow, so honored to be episode 5 first guest. Like, I feel so cool.
Yes, I'm so excited. So if you're listening and you don't know anything about Kinsey and I, basically I say we're like online BFFs. We love chatting with each other. We can talk for hours on end. We'll have a podcast episode on her podcast at the end of this month. Her podcast is Feel Good Social. And she hosted me on a live recently on her Instagram. So you can check out more of our conversations together. But before that, Kinsey, who are you and what do you do?
Well, thank you for asking. And yeah, Jess and I go way back, of course. Like, we could talk for hours and hours and hours. We have to stop our conversations usually. So we'll see how this conversation on the episode goes. But long story short, my name's Kinsey. I'm the head honcho at Feel Good Social. My little elevator pitch thing is I help down-to-earth entrepreneurs market your biz on social without wasting your precious time or feeling like it's sucking your soul, right? Because we all kind of can feel that deeply. You know, when I started in the social media marketing industry, I really didn't know what I was doing. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I market on social media? And then how do I create a business around this and all that stuff? And there weren't a lot of people really talking about what I felt was the obvious thing, that like Instagram can be super annoying, super frustrating, super overwhelming, super confusing, all those things. And so I was like, why don't we just like talk about it and talk about how you can market, do content marketing in a way that actually feels good to you and aligns with your life, your business, your ideal customers, without having to follow all the trends and it feeling icky and all those different things. So that's kind of what I do.
Yes. And so I don't even remember what prompted my idea for this conversation. I had, like my 5 months of podcast ideas lined out. And then last week, I'm like, I should have Kinsey on and we can talk about having fun in your business. And the reason why I feel like this is so perfect, and I smushed it in my ideas, is because Kinsey is basically the reason this podcast is happening now and not next year. I had plans to start in January of 2023, and now it is April of 2022 because Kinsey convinced me I should, and it didn't take much bribing because I was super excited about it. So the second reason is because Kinsey's brand is all about feeling good and enjoying what you're doing. So let's start with, have there been times in your business where you haven't had fun? And what
Oh my gosh. Yes. So many. Like this week already? Like, no. No, of course. I think that, man, we all go through growing pains. We all go through learning experiences and struggles and hurdles that we have to figure out how to navigate in business. Like, I don't think like if you came to this episode hoping that I would say, this is your exact path to making business completely easy and enjoyable all the time. No, I'm so sorry to burst your bubble. I'm not going to say that. But I think that part of like having fun in your business and actually enjoying your business is like accepting that there is going to be struggle and like it's okay and you're not alone and it's normal. You know what I mean? Like part of the issue too sometimes is like people not talking about the struggle necessarily, or like sweeping the struggle under the rug, especially when it comes to showing up in the public eye. You know what I mean? And it's something we all deal with, but I've definitely struggled in my business. There have been learning experiences and stuff like that for sure. Did you want me to share like any examples or anything?
Either way, something that I just thought of while you were talking there was, like there is the fact that there's a whole lot of business stuff you have to take care of when running a business. Surprise, surprise. But sometimes that business stuff doesn't necessarily always feel fun. But something I've been thinking about a lot lately is reframing different ideas. So is there a way that we can reframe these things that we quote unquote have to do? And I tell my audience, my customers, so often, I hate have tos. Let's reframe that to what do we get to do? So instead of like, oh, I have to post on social media right now, maybe it's I get to provide value for my customers, or I get to connect and interact with my customers, or I get to do, and so reframe it and realize what you actually enjoy about it and focus on that. Because I've found that actually pretty much every part of my business, I do love if I'm in the right mindset for it. Like sometimes it's just like, oh, I hate this. This is the worst thing ever. But if I'm doing it when I have the right kind of energy for it, it's like, oh, actually, I love Instagram. I love connecting on email. I love connecting in DMs. I love my membership. I love designing patterns. I love, all these different processes that we have, and that you actually can love it all. You don't have to love it all, but I think it's so much easier to run our businesses when we figure out how to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. I love that so much. I mean, okay, so there's some things, guys, that like literally you just gotta like rip the Band-Aid off and spend like 2 hours doing your taxes, or like or like whatever it is, like there's some things that I think sometimes would be hard to reframe for sure. And that's when you just gotta like go for it and get it over with and it's like done or whatever, but like there are so many things in business that you can totally reframe. And also too, you go through seasons in your business where sometimes you're busy, sometimes you're slower, sometimes you're feeling more creative, sometimes you're feeling like you're pulling teeth to like get anything done, right? And so like accepting that that's a thing too. And that's also like seasons and like waves, like cycles, like day to day and month to month too, right? Like sometimes there's weeks when I'm feeling like super low energy and all that stuff, and I don't want to talk to anyone. And those are the days when I like go back and do kind of like the behind the scenes work in my business, and I give myself permission to like not show up on the front end quite as much, right? And then there's weeks when I'm feeling super bright and bubbly and awesome, and that's when I'm creating content. That's when I'm showing up and like having conversations and all that different stuff. So I think that, one of the best things you can do is get to know yourself and just get curious about it, right? Like get curious about, how am I feeling right now? Is this feeling super hard? Do I need to go on a run and release some energy? Do I need to go take a nap and rejuvenate some energy? Like, do I need to just switch tasks and come back to this later after I've like cultivated more excitement around something else? Like getting to know yourself is probably one of the best things you can do, and getting curious about, what does this mean for my business and how I go through my business? Does that make sense?
Yes. I love it so much. And two things. First of all, we have the design along running this month inside of the design circle. So it's where the designers inside the design circle can come together and they're talking all about their designs, their design process and everything. And at the beginning of the month, some folks were actually talking about how they're wanting to reframe their design process in terms of their cycle, because it's all women. And so it's like, all right, when am I needing to just be sitting on the couch with comfort knitting and have something cozy with me? And when am I actually in the headspace that doing the math feels good? And, all of these different things. And so getting to know those cycles, but also just your energy in general. That's something I'm working through with a coach right now. And seasons in general, I think are so helpful and valuable. But then also, even before I really kind of started to be more mindful of like my actual ebbs and flows, I've always really preferred to be enough ahead of schedule that I can always change my schedule. So what I mean by that is I'm a planner through and through. I love to have everything lined out forever and ever and ever. But on the day of, I don't feel like I have to do this because I can do it tomorrow or I can do it next week if I'm not feeling like it. So maybe I have I want to do all my social media planning this week, but it feels hard. There's no sense in me pushing through it and hating it and then it taking 4 times as long because I'm not enjoying it and not in the right headspace. So maybe swatching for a design is what I should be doing. Or basically, I love to just follow my passion and my interests and be like, this is what feels fun right now.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I do that. Yeah. I do that with my business and like my processes. And I also do that with my social media content and all the different stuff. Right. And I'm so glad you brought that up. Cause that's exactly what I do too. I'm like, I'm an Enneagram 7, which we've talked about before. And it's like, those are the people who like to have fun a lot, and like to be joyful and really don't like being bored or feeling pain or anything like that. And so that's where I find myself light up is like, just getting curious. Like I've learned to be aware of it in my body, right? Like if I'm just trying to do something and it feels like I'm pulling teeth, and like I can't get it done, can't get it done. It's more beneficial for me to like switch tasks, right? To something that's going to bring me more energy, bring me more creativity. And then usually I can carry that energy and creativity and go back to that task that I was hating before, right? And so just being aware and giving yourself permission to switch tasks. And also, I know you're a planner, girl. I mean, I kind of created like an online course about planning social media content and all that. But I will say I'm not a natural planner, right? It's one of those things that I have to do because it's helpful for me. However, sometimes, for the people out there who they aren't the full planners ahead and they get behind stuff, it's still okay to like regroup and reality check when it comes to what you're doing and like, can I put this off, right? Like most tasks in your business, most marketing things, anything like that aren't as urgent as we think they are. And so like, maybe I'm like, for example, I always talk about social media because that's what I focus on, but like I get a lot of people coming to me being like, I'm trying to type this post and like put it out today, like they'll come to me, they're being like, well, I said that I had to post daily on social media. So like, I'm trying to push this post out at 9 p.m. at night because, I want to like stick to the schedule and all that stuff. And I'm like, girl, just like post that, like, sure, finish the post if you're feeling it, if not, like step away from it. But like, even if you do finish it right now, post it tomorrow. It's fine, So like just regrouping and giving yourself reality checks around that, I think is helpful.
Yeah. And that's also like so much of, I think, enjoying business, at least from my perspective, is letting go of the things that you feel like are boundaries and, like I said, have to's, and realizing like, hey, you're the boss of this business. You can decide what happens and when, and you can change deadlines. I mean, like if you're working with somebody and you've committed to a deadline with them, yes, please stick to that, or at least communicate with them if it's not possible. But for the most part, like if you have a release and you've planned it for the 15th of the month and it's like, okay, I'm not going to be ready, you can move that to the 20th. And you can even tell your audience and be like, hey, it's just not possible. There's too much going on. That just shows that you're human. Yeah. And that,
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, even with clients, even with like your customers and your audience and stuff like that. Like, I pushed back a course start date, I think, and it wasn't even the first time I launched my online course. It was like, the third time, I think it might've even been the fourth time that I launched my online course. I was like, just stressing and I wasn't feeling it. And I had two people sign up already, and I had told them that the start date was like this week and stuff. And I was like, it's just not feeling right to me. Like I was just like super stressed out. And my mindset coach actually was like, okay, well, how about we push it back? And I was like, well, I can't because they're already planning on it. She's like, okay, one, like you're still allowed to make this decision, like just communicate with them, and they'll have to understand. And two, like maybe that it will be better for them anyway. It also like this happens all the time. She gave me a few examples of like big name people who like move things around. Like even if you do have a deadline with a client, or even if you do have like a deadline that people somewhat know about, usually like you're the person that it's the biggest deal to, right? And so even when I moved back that course launch date, exactly what she said would probably happen. Like the people were like, oh, that actually works better for me anyway. I was like, great. Here I was. And if without that advice from her, I would have like just pushed through it and like gone for it and completely stressed myself the heck out. And for nothing really, in hindsight, like, but I didn't know that until I took that leap and it happened. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm thinking of an example of this. This last month, I released a shawl that was designed as a collaboration for a local yarn shop who was celebrating their 5-year anniversary of the shop. So the design had to be there and ready by the day of their birthday party. But I already knew ahead of time. I had a whole bunch of other stuff happening. I was actually opening doors to the design circle that whole week. So I knew that I wasn't actually going to start promoting it until later. So I had planned to start promoting it basically while I was on vacation, which happened right after a whole bunch of busy stuff. And so the idea was, oh, I'm going to have all of this social media, email, all of this stuff ready so that it can just go out on its own while I'm on vacation. Well, first of all, yes, the pattern did get done. It did get to the yarn shop. I got photos, all of that stuff. But I'm still launching that pattern a month after the release. Yeah, today we're recording on April 5th. Technically, it released on March 5th. And so I went on vacation and I hadn't had time to get all of my stuff together. So I spent the first few days of vacation trying to get everything together, catch up on everything, and have all this stuff together. And finally, I'm like, this isn't worth it. Like I got some stuff out there, but I'm here for vacation. I'm not here to stress myself out and get zero sleep and all of this other stuff because I'm trying to squeeze in Instagram posts and emails. Like, isn't that important? No. So now I have my promotion for this shawl is going through the whole month of April. I still haven't written my emails, so that will be going out at some point. But it's one of those things where, 2 years ago, I don't think I would have actually stopped and just let it be. Like I would have kept going every night until 2:00 in the morning trying to get this stuff done. And then kind of just ruin the vacation and and even if you aren't on vacation, whatever it is that's going on for you, is it actually worth the feelings and the stress and everything that comes up just to push through and stick to your original idea?
Yep. I mean, that's what I was going to say as you're talking. I was like, that is definitely one of those lessons that I learned that I've had to learn in my business. And also, guys, like a lot of these things, it might be a lesson that you have to learn a few times again and again. So like if you run into things again, like don't feel bad about it or anything, but for sure, like, I mean, I can think of so many times when I was working on vacation, stressed out on vacation, all this different stuff. Right. And like, and ultimately like in the grand scheme of your life, like, does it matter? Like, is this what your values are? Is this what you want? All that different stuff. Like, no. And ultimately, in like the grand success of your business, is this going to make like that much of a difference? Like, no, So like always regrouping, giving yourself reality checks, I think is such a good practice. Another big lesson that I've learned in my business, honestly, too, is to really lean into like who I am, right, in my business. Like whenever I started my business, I thought that I needed to be like professional. I needed to create this sort of business. I needed to like look this way, speak this way, sound this way in order to be taken seriously and gain clients and see success, and all that different stuff. But what has really like created more of a feel good business for me is truly just like accepting, embracing, and showing up as who I am, what I really believe, even if it's not the most popular, even if like you feel like other people are going to judge you or anything like that. Like, one of those lessons where it's like, not pleasing everyone is okay. And like, because when you show up as your true authentic self, then the people who you do and can help are going to love you more. You know what I mean?
Yes, the people who actually like you for who you are going to be the people that you're working with. And it's going to be so much easier to do all of your work because now you're enjoying that instead of trying to show up as somebody you're not. And then I personally feel like it's so much harder to show up when you're not just yourself. Like it's so much easier to just be you because that's how you are naturally. You don't have to put in extra effort to be this, and this if you're just you.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to like try to be something all the time. I talk about this whenever I talk about, like I've recorded a few episodes on my podcast about like finally kind of coming into who Feel Good Social is and like figuring out who Feel Good Social is, right? And it started with me trying to be someone, right? Trying to create this like professional agency. And then I kind of moved into more of a who I would love to be, So like my first branding was kind of like black and white professional. And I like think I laughed in the podcast episode I recorded. I was like, I don't even my hair is always frizzy. I have dog hair all over my clothes. My fingernails are always like broken because I'm like falling down and running outside or something. And like, no, like professional, I don't even know like what that would look like on me. Right. Then I like tried to be kind of like cool, bohemian, nature, which I somewhat am. Like that's an aspect of my personality, but like that's not who I am. I'm kind of like spazzy, jazz handsy, flamboyant, like like overly enthusiastic, like bright, And so that's how I finally landed on who Feel Good Social is. So it's not who you're trying to be. It's not who you want to be. It's like who you are, and that's the easiest and also the most magnetic for your true people, like the people who you can help and work with and stuff.
Yes, I love that so much because I can totally relate. It was like started as, all right, this is what I should be. This is what I would like my business to look like. And then I've definitely been like, oh, I really want to be like this, but that feels so hard, especially like Instagram feeds. It's like, oh yeah, I would love to have a beautiful polished Instagram feed that's like just perfect. But to actually do that myself is it's like just feels so hard and overwhelming. And I probably wouldn't ever even show up if I was trying to do that because nothing is ever going to be perfect. And so I will also say, like it's taken me 3 years to really figure out who I am. And part of that might be my age, but I think I've also heard a lot of it is just running a business really helps you to dive deep into understanding who you actually are and what you actually love and what your personality actually is. Like, I was thinking about this earlier. I love that Kinsey is the person having this conversation with me because in so many ways, we are so different. Kinsey is like the bright, bubbly, energetic, loves to have fun. And I'm the one who's like always thought of myself as like the quiet, timid, shy, bashful, what is fun? Like I actually had this conversation with one of my coaches. I've had a couple of times where I'm like everybody's like, have fun in your business. And I'm like, how do you have fun? Like, when I think of fun, I think of somebody else's definition of fun, where it's like this big, huge party, tons of people, loud music, lots of dancing, whatever else. And to me, that's just like overwhelming and exhausting. And I'd much rather just be at home with my fake plant. I was gonna say my plants. Here's my fake plant behind me.
Oh my God, that was the best. Who is my fake plant? Does he have a name?
Not yet. He just came in yesterday.
Oh, okay. That's what I need, because I cannot keep a plant alive to save my life. Like Brett doesn't let me touch our plants. I don't know. I will kill them.
The problem is everything seems like it's always too far from the window. So it's like
okay, yeah.
Anyway, but the idea is I'm a homebody. Yes, okay. So I do love traveling. I do love people to a certain extent. But that's not my definition of fun. So for me, for the longest time, even in my business, it's like, how in the world do I have fun? And for me, it's actually become more, how do I enjoy what I'm doing in my business? And it's really just about my passion and, finding what I love and doing that and talking about it and just sharing it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm like nerdy for this sort of stuff. Like, because like, I love that because it's true. It's so true. Oh man. Okay. That is one of those giant realizations that can help in so many different areas of your life, of your business, of all the things, right? Is like, we have these accepted definitions of things, of ideas, of topics, of words, even in society in general, right? That you hear a lot of people talking about. And the definition that is generally accepted is not always like the defined, constant definition, right? So like whenever anyone says like have fun in your business, like it sounds, the connotations that we have with that word are like bright and bubbly and probably extroverted, right? Which is so funny because I'm actually introverted, even though I show up as extroverted a lot. Like I usually have a screen in between my conversations, like I'm actually kind of quiet and like a hermit somewhat at home and stuff. But like, that's not the definition of fun for everyone. Sometimes a definition of fun is like reading a book on the couch, and here's the thing, like probably at least like 40% of the population is like that, you know what I mean, too, and so figuring out what does fun mean for you. What's so funny, this came up for me with perfectionism, because I like, we all have journeys throughout our life and stuff. So probably in high school, I would have considered myself a perfectionist more so and all that different stuff. But like now that I've come into owning my business and like learning about myself more so and all that different stuff, like I wouldn't have considered myself a perfectionist, right? Because I had this idea of like what the general public thinks of as perfect, right? And so I wouldn't call myself a perfectionist because I like showing up on social media with like behind the scenes content that's like me with like super messy, my folded laundry on my coffee table. And like, I like showing up as quote unquote imperfect as like society views perfectionism in general, or like my idea of what society thinks is perfectionism. But I recently have realized that and this came through with like the podcast actually brought this out of me, right? Because I, for the longest time, would write out all of my solo show scripts word for word. And then I would read them, but I would need to read them like with enough personality. So it didn't sound like it was being read and all these different things. And like, some shows I'd be like super happy with, some shows I like wouldn't be happy with, because like I had this idea of how I wanted to come across as like laid back, bubbly, cool, not scripted, not perfect, but like that's my idea of perfect for Feel Good Social. And so I was like, oh shit, I'm totally a perfectionist. So I've been dealing with that lately, but like that can be reflected to pretty much most ideas in business, I think.
Yeah. And so the one that I always talk about is defining your definition of success. But really, the amazing thing about being a business owner is you get to redefine everything in your business. If something isn't working for you, if it doesn't feel right, you get to totally change what it means to you or how you approach it or any of these different kinds of things. Because, if it doesn't fit you, then how can you change it so it does fit you? You actually enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's like, really, exactly. I like your reframe of enjoyment for sure versus fun. Cause I think there's like the different connotation on that word enjoyment. Right. And it's like, it's more of like a calm, like, what do you just like love? What do you look forward to, and also realizing too, I think mentioned this a little bit earlier. Sometimes I'll use what I think is like fun, what I enjoy, like content creation, designing templates in Canva, and I'll start my day with that. And then I'll move into like the more boring stuff because like that energy can carry through, so getting to know that and then using it to like balance back and forth is something that I do most days.
Yeah. Well, and that reminded me, I actually thought of it earlier when you were mentioning that, but again, Ash Wilder is a guest that we had inside of the design circle in February to talk about habits and goal setting. But she often talks about when you're planning out whether it's your quarter, your year, your week, to highlight the different energies required. So if you're like, this requires a lot of social energy, or this requires physical energy, or this is rejuvenating to me, or like have different colors to color code those. And actually, I've never actually done it myself, but I love the idea. And when you have it all written out, you color code everything, and then you can see, is this going to be a draining week? If so, what should I change? Do I move stuff around? Do I move half of it to next week and bring in some more rejuvenating activities? Or is it just a matter of I need to spread it between the 5 days so it's not all on one day? Or does it work better for you to have it all on one day and then have a quiet recoup day the next day? But just being aware of how much energy everything requires can help you plan things out so that you don't get burnt out and you actually find enjoyment in all of it. You also have mentioned, like, even throughout the day, the different kinds of energies you can have, and different people have more energy at different times of the day. So some people are high energy first thing in the morning and some people aren't. One thing that I have found really interesting is inside of the design circle, the best time for the calls lately has been 9:00 in the morning. So it's the first thing I do in the day. And then I love it. I enjoy it, but then I'm super distracted for the rest of the day. And so it really doesn't work well for the way my brain works. It really seems to work better for me to actually have the social interaction in the afternoon, because then I'm just like all over the place and I'm filled with excitement, but it's energy that's not really useful to actually get things done.
Right. I know. Oh, girl, for the Feel Good Social Club, and just like podcast interviews and meetings and all the different things. Like, I know that I'm at my prime at 10 a.m. That's when the second coffee caffeine starts kicking in and I can show up and it can be like, but also I experience the same thing. Today is like, the day we're recording is a day of meetings for me for Feel Good Social, right? So we have morning meetings and afternoon meetings, and Jess and I are doing this interview in between the two meetings and stuff. And so I'm excited because I have the energy coming off of our first meeting and all that different stuff. But for our afternoon meetings, girl, these happen every month, guys. I'm like, all right, like they're so different than the morning meetings. And I just like tell people, I'm like, my friends, I'm doing this for you so that you can show up if you need to in the afternoon instead. But like, this is a more casual type of meeting. I might like pour myself a glass of wine, like in a little bit or something, it's like totally different, but being aware of that. And so usually I don't schedule anything else on the first Tuesday of the month. Of course I wanted to do this interview with you today and it's so fun, but like, being aware of that too is especially important, like when am I when am I holding my meetings? And like, should I plan for anything after that? Like I have said no to people for like podcast interviews and meetings and things like that, depending on like what time of day. I will not do like some people I listen to podcasts and sometimes they're like, we're recording this at like 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, guys, I'm side-eyeing, by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, but like, I will not schedule anything. Let's be honest, it's a stretch. It has to be really like important for me to schedule something after 4 p.m. my time, because after that my brain kind of turns mushy, and so just realizing that about yourself is so important.
Yes. And I'm the person who, if I have a call at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, yeah, I'd rather be somewhere else. I am a night owl. I did a free design challenge in February, and I had calls in the morning and calls in the evening. I think it was like somewhere between, the morning calls differed. So somewhere between 7 and 10 every morning. And then they were all 7 o'clock at night. And I had so much energy at the evening ones, so much more energy. And in the morning, I'm definitely more calmed. And it's just interesting. Like, we're all different humans. And so this is a very specific example talking about energies during the day. But this is why everything in general doesn't fit everybody. Like, you see somebody saying, oh, you have to do it this way and that way. And, your schedule should look like this, and your plan should look like this, and your year should be scheduled like this. Chances are it's not going to work for a large percentage of the population. It works for them, but you have to find what actually works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, girl. I feel like we talked about that. So Jess and I went live yesterday on Instagram, and that totally came up, right? Because like, if you ever hear anyone giving you like, this is the way advice, you know what I mean? Like very set, specific advice, like just question it, like don't like, I mean, sure, like it might work, it might work for you, but also like realize like, okay, I'm going to be curious about this advice that they're giving me. Like, does this work for me? Like, maybe not, and also too, what I like to remind my Feel Good Social Clubbers is like, does this work for me this month? Does this work for me this week? Right? Like, because it's all shifting all the time and stuff. So give yourself permission. Like, I always like to give myself guidelines moving forward and kind of a plan of attack. And like, this is what I would love, let's try for this, let's try for that, let's try for that. But then if things don't go my way, or if I need to shift things around or change my mind or anything like that, then I don't make that mean anything about myself. And like, you let go of the emotions and you give yourself permission to do that,
Yes. And so then also, when you're like looking at advice from other people or listening to advice from other people, first you can put it through your filter of, do I actually like this? Like, does this feel good for me? And then if you're still like, I'm not really sure, you can test it. You can try new things, and you don't have to make it permanent, because it is going to take some trying and testing to actually figure out, is this fun for me? Is this enjoyable for me? Does this actually feel authentic for me? If it doesn't, is there a way that I can make it more enjoyable and more authentic? And if not, you can just get rid of it.
Well, exactly. And sometimes it changes, right? Like, I've gone through, I laughed because how you can like remember specific moments and stuff. Like, I remember specifically, like probably 2-ish years ago, being in a meeting with my business coach, Michelle, and being like, I love one-on-one coaching. Like, I think that this is what I want to grow my business now. I love my clients so much, and I love blah, 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 and all this stuff. And like, it was true, I was feeling very, very hyped up on one-on-one coaching, and I still like love one-on-one coaching and love my one-on-one coaching clients. But, I moved through the season and I kind of realized like, okay, actually, like, where I'm really finding enjoyment now is more so like content creation versus like strategy for one-on-one coaching clients, And so I kind of like, for like a year, I was focusing on one-on-one coaching, and I gained like a lot of great clients and amazing clients, and I loved working with them. But still, like, at the end of the year, I was like, this isn't what's exciting me anymore as much as like creating content and designs and all that different stuff. And so then I shifted my focus, and who knows, maybe we'll shift it again in the
Yes.
future, but allow yourself to do that.
Yes. And so just to like kind of make it a little bit more specific to pattern designers, like different, it could be a matter of what you actually enjoy designing as far as socks or sweaters or cables or lace or things like that. But it could also be in the ways that you're marketing your stuff. It could be, I'm really loving being at local yarn shops and being present there and meeting customers. And then maybe that changes after a few months and you decide you really like something else, festivals or focusing on Instagram or, like all sorts of different things that it can apply to, that you can just, you can test it. And if you love it, go for it. But it doesn't have to be permanent. Nothing has to be permanent.
Oh, okay. And so the final thing too, that I'm thinking right now that like totally came up in the meeting this morning was, often as well, and especially when you start listening to business advice and marketing advice and stuff like that, like there's the big high level, big picture plans that like are they like great to implement and do all the things, right? Like go to yarn stores, show up at festivals, post on Instagram, tell the people at the festivals about your Instagram, then send them a message afterwards. They're like, blah, blah, blah. Like, is there like the big ass marketing plan that like you could totally like create for your business and like try to implement? Sure. But like, is that doable for you? Like, it's so much better. Like you'll start hearing like a lot of advice, like, and also competing advice too, online, all over the place from all the different people. Do this, do this, do this, do all the things, right? And it's like, okay, no. Like that's way too overwhelming. And that is how you turn into a deer in headlights and you like don't do anything. So like always too, it's totally okay to like, yeah, listen to the advice, be curious, try different things, all that different stuff. But it's also okay to just like go with one thing to start practicing, posting on Instagram stories once a day, and that's your only focus for this whole month, right? One post to Instagram stories every day. Like that's your little plan. No reels, no fest. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I always bring it back to Instagram because that's what I know, you know what I mean? But like, just baby steps, practice that. Then slowly when that feels a little easier, bring in something else. You know what I mean? Bring in something else. Like, if you're ever feeling overwhelmed in your business, like just take a step back, breathe, and then like think, okay, like let's minimize I was gonna say minimalize. Let's minimize like my goals right now. Let's just start practicing one thing, then slowly baby steps, right?
Yes. And I find the more that you focus on these specific things that you're going to work on, the more you're going to enjoy it, the less likely you are to get burnt out and overwhelmed. And the more you can figure out how it actually works for you. If you have your focus on 10 different things, basically you're going to do the bare minimum to get all of those 10 things done. And are you actually going to enjoy any of them? Maybe
and
not.
are you going to get results too?
Yes.
Right. I talk about this when it comes to social media too. Like, and I'm still kind of figuring out how to talk about it with people. Like, in my online membership, there's like an array of people, right? From like Jessica, who's like honestly very amazing, knowledgeable, very like hi, what's sort of like you're so good at getting things done, planning ahead, getting things done, like all that different. I'm like impressed by you, lady. But like, I have people like you who know many more things and like are ready to implement high level marketing strategies versus people who are like just starting out in Instagram and all that different stuff. And so it's like, but for example, like you don't want to like show up on all the platforms, because if you're giving yourself let's say you're showing up on 5 different social media platforms and you have to create content for all of them, right? And your 20% of your energy is going to YouTube audience, 20% of your energy is going to TikTok audience, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest. That's like 6 of them. And but like, you're going to get 20% results on each of those platforms versus like 100% results on like focusing all your energy on one platform. Right. So you're like, it's not just like, are you going to have fun with it? Like, you're not, and you're going to burn out, but also like you're limiting yourself as far as results. Right.
Yeah. You're not going to actually, if you're testing it to see if it works, you're not actually giving yourself a fair chance to actually know if it's going to work, because you're basically not setting yourself up for success. I didn't want to say you're setting yourself up for failure.
The F word.
Like yeah, the F word. But yeah, I also wanted to do just a little bit of a maybe teaching moment, is what we'll call it. When you said that I get a lot done, I've heard that from several people, and I always feel like I'm not getting enough done. I shouldn't say always. I never get as much done as I want to get done. And so first lesson is, what people perceive of you is always different than what you perceive of yourself. And it seems like we always have much more negative ideas of what we're getting done compared to everybody else. Second learning moment is, yes, I get a lot done. And that's not necessarily a good thing because I spend way too much time on my business. Actually, I'm working on implementing what I call my time boundaries again, which is my schedule. Like, okay, these are my working hours. I'm not going to work until 2:00 in the morning because I'm going to have a life outside of work. And so, getting everything done isn't necessarily always the best thing. Reflect back on what you want, what your purpose is, what you actually want out of your business. But if your goal isn't to live inside of your business 24/7, your goal shouldn't be to do everything everywhere. And so,
well, yeah. And also too, like, that's totally a lesson I've had to learn too, right? Like firstly, urgency, guys, like, let's just like cut like anytime someone's like, I need this today, I need this in 5 minutes. Like I'm like, no, you don't. Like I've learned to check my email once a day, which is like kind of taboo for a lot of people. My clients know that I'll probably respond to an email within 48 hours, not 28 hours, and I don't look on weekends anymore. I used to, but like my very first client, I think I was almost lucky with my very first client, she was a very nice lady. Loved her. Also, she wanted to pay me like correctly, right? She was paying me a good amount of money, like still to what I charge today, right? But she wanted me to be at her beck and call 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like 10 p.m. So I would get texts like, can I get this done? I need this done within the hour, like randomly, you know what I mean? And urgency, letting go of that has been one of the biggest things when it comes to like my business. So like I was staying up until 2 p.m. I was staying up till 2 p.m, guys. Nowadays, like literally we had to pick our puppy up from the vet at 10 p.m. last night because he had to go in for an emergency thing. And I was like, I have to stay up till 10. Like now, but no, I was staying up till like 2 a.m. editing my podcast when I just started because I thought I had to get it out at 6 a.m. every freaking Thursday. I was doing them on Thursdays at that point. That has changed at this point. But like, no, like it took my business coach being like, Kins, like, do you think someone's like waiting at their phone? The Feel Good Social podcast episode hasn't come out yet, And that was when I was on like episode 5 or something. It was like super new. I had like 20 listeners, and so I was like, oh yeah, you're so right. Like take the urgency. Anytime anyone's ever like making you feel that way or like having that urgency themselves, like taking a deep breath, and you'd be surprised how people respond to that. Like when I've had that with my client, be like, I need this. And I'll be like, okay, I can get to that tomorrow. Or, okay, I can get to that like on Thursday, like they're just like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, that was easy. All right, fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like learning to do that is so important. I feel like I just went off on kind of a tangent, but
yes, no, it was perfect because there was a really loud roar of thunder that went over. So I just tried to mute myself. But yes, it was probably like a month or two ago now, but I kind of went on a rant on Instagram about emails, like how people feel so entitled to getting a quick response, or that you, not even so much that they project that on you, but you feel like you're responsible for getting them a quick response. And so, like I'm constantly talking to people to schedule guests for the design circle and for, excuse me, my featured designers on Instagram every month and all of these different things. And it was like in a matter of a few days, I received all of these emails that were like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for the delay. And it's like, it's been a day and a half. I've been like trying to give myself grace. Like I have like a bajillion emails and I'm like
I was kind of hoping you'd wait to respond to this like longer.
Yes. So I'm like, like I'm working to give myself grace. Like, hey, it's okay if I don't get back to everybody for, the next week or something. Like there's a whole bunch of these emails that aren't that high priority. And then I get all of these emails that are like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. It was so slow. And I'm like, why are we living in a society that makes us feel this way? Like, we don't actually need answers that quick. Occasionally it can feel like we do, but we don't.
Well, and here's the thing too, like you're never going to be able to change. Like it has to start within you, right? Like this change, if you want to make it, then you have to let go of the urgency yourself, and also just learn how to set those boundaries with people. And you'd be like surprised how great the response is. You know what I mean? Like that happens too a lot of times when it's like honestly, lady, I know you're supposed to, quote unquote, but like I don't put like I'm on vacation emails. Like I don't put like, I mean, I would love, like probably will try to the next time we go on like a week-long vacation or something like that. But some people put like on their Instagram DMs on the weekends, like, sorry, I can't respond. Like I turn off my Instagram notifications on the weekend and stuff. And I'm like, I get off Instagram on the weekends, but I don't do that either. Like people just like need to learn to be okay with it. And also too, when you don't make it a big deal and when you just set your own boundaries, that's like other people learn from that. You know what I mean? Like, well, firstly, if they're annoyed that you didn't respond to your email within 48 hours or your Instagram DM within 48 hours, that's not someone you want to work with anyway. Like, oh, well, And then secondly, like, I've had a couple of clients come to me and be like, when you started setting the first client I ever had, and then also like a few other ones have said it in different words, but like the first client I ever had, that was like the lady who wanted me at 10 p.m. at night and like within the hour things, she was like, when we stopped working together, she came to me, she's like, I really have to say, like, you're someone who really started to teach me about boundaries, right? Because let's be honest, it was a restaurant. She was in the service industry. And if anyone's worked in the service industry, we know how freaking minimal boundaries there are working in a restaurant, and like how urgent things feel all the time within the restaurant environment, right? And she was like, when you started, like, saying, oh yeah, I'll get to that on Thursday to me and stuff, like, I'll be honest with you, it like pissed me the heck off. Like I was fuming the first 2 times you did that to me, she said. But then she's like, but then I kind of started to accept it. And then I kind of started to realize where I can do that in my own life. And that, oh, I can like tell people who are dropping off things at the restaurant that I can't be there at 7 a.m. Like we're going to have to figure something else out, And so it really like trickles out into everyone else in your life, but it all starts with you. You're the one that you can control and change and set boundaries,
Yes. And it's like so freeing when you set those boundaries, like so much more that you're, even just like the mental, not feeling so exhausted because you're having to do XYZ or whatever because you've set a boundary. So this is actually like perfect timing because I just went back to my, what I call my time boundaries, my schedule, my routine, whatever you actually want to call it, yesterday. this, I did it for a while at the beginning of the year, and then it was like everything got so busy and busy and overwhelming, and I just like threw it all away. And now today it was like my first day of actually going back to what I actually want my days to look like, and I'm like in such a better mood today. Not that I'm like was grumpy yesterday or anything, but like it just doesn't feel nearly as overwhelming getting stuff done. Or like part of it was also like, all right, these are my priorities right now. This is what I'm actually wanting to get done. So I have a lot of clarity there. But then also it's like, all right, I'm actually only working on this until this time. It's not like I'm just going to be here for the next 12 hours. So I guess we'll just keep going.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, lady. Real quick. That is totally what I was gonna say when I like kind of went on. I was like, I think I went on a tangent because okay, here's the thing. Like, firstly, when you set boundaries with yourself and you set time limitations with yourself, then you do have to prioritize, and you end up working on what is your priority instead of doing busy work for 12 hours, right? Also, you set time limitations on yourself. So you do tend to work faster more often, but if you can't, hey, no big deal, because that happens to the best of us, right? But then at the same time too, it took me forever to realize that saying no to working when 6 o'clock hits every night gives me enough energy to rejuvenate for the next day, so that the next day I actually end up doing better work instead of continuing to work from 6 p.m. to midnight and then exhausting myself and being tired and then getting less sleep and then showing up the next day and still not doing very good work. And so doing less work and like worse work, during that time when I'm trying to get things done. And then also the next day it carries on and stuff, like giving yourself boundaries, giving yourself time for rest and play and all the different things. Like it allows you to show up and do better work during like less hours,
Yes. And if you're listening and you are a member of the design circle and you have not watched our video with Ash from February, do it. Because she, she talks about, she understands and knows all of the science behind all of it as well. But like your brain just cannot function highly for that amount of time. And so having breaks is really important throughout the day, but also, whether it's the beginning of your day or the end of the day, however you choose to do your breaks, it's important just to have time away and not thinking about it, because whatever the actual term for it is, I think of it like mental exhaustion. It's just like a lot. Your brain's just like constantly going, even though you do, you sleep and you eat, but like at least for me, it's like, I'm always on. I'm like, just like always thinking about all of these things. And so, kind of fun when I was thinking of reframes yesterday, it was like me looking at the schedule. And even though this was the same schedule I put together a long time ago, I wrote it back down, put it up right in front of my computer on the wall. And I realized like, hey, this time where I'm like, it's after dinner and I'm not working, suddenly now I have 3.5 hours every single day for me. Like that's time for me to like hang out with my partner or do what I love and do all these other crafts I don't have time for. And, all of these things, it's like, it's not 3.5 plus hours that I'm not working in my business. Instead, it's 3.5 hours that I get to myself. Like I'm suddenly gaining time for me.
Yeah. And like, I always bring it back to social media stuff too. And it's like, I think it's important also to set boundaries when it comes to like social media things too. Like it's definitely hard to turn off work brain, but if you go from work to like scrolling on social media, like I would much rather, okay, here's like a random thing that I just thought of, and I don't know the science about like behind it, but I would love to hear from Ash what the science is. But like, I would much rather you watch Netflix than scroll on social media. And here's why. When you're scrolling on social media, you're consuming content, topic, different topic, like idea. And your brain is jumping around super, super quickly from like tons and tons and tons of different things and all this different stuff. And you're kind of like, whatever people decide to post about today, and it's exhausting. it's freaking exhausting for your brain, like to jump from task, idea all the time. Like I'd much rather you relax by either one, having quiet time, although I know that can be hard for some of us. So then instead watch some trashy Netflix show that like doesn't require a lot of brain power, but at least it's like focusing on one storyline versus like switching your brain between like all this different stuff, right?
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I know for me, I usually when I go on Instagram, I'm on my business profile, or now one of my two business profiles. And yeah, I love it. I love scrolling and seeing all the things, but then you're also still in business mode, even if you don't realize it. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that could be a really great content idea. Or, oh my goodness, I should engage with this person because it'll be great for my business. Or, all of these things where you're actually still just working. And so, a bad habit that I occasionally get into is I can justify staying in bed longer on my phone scrolling Instagram before I get up, because it's like, okay, I'm relaxing and enjoying myself and not like pressuring myself to get right into work. But at the same time, I'm getting stuff done. Like I'm responding to DMs and like I'm just multitasking. And actually, there's a whole bunch of reasons that's not a great way to approach it. But one is the way it starts the energy for the morning for me isn't the best. And so what I do is I now have, when I actually follow my time boundaries, I have 2 times a day that I check Instagram, email, and Discord. Discord is the community for the design circle. Because then, and I don't check any of them until 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's like right before lunch, because then I'm able to actually focus on what I'm doing for that day for a solid how many hours in the morning before I ever get distracted by everything going on with everybody else. So that is one, like you mentioned, you only check email once a day. For me, yeah, it's twice a day, but I don't check Instagram or Discord until those times either. And that is, it's so helpful for me because it's like, I realize like how much more energy and focus I have on my work if I put those off as long as possible.
Yeah. I mean, another thing too to think about is like, and this is, I think, individual to people as well, right? But this can definitely be applied to Instagram. For me, honestly, I mean, somewhat Instagram, but it's more email, which I think is why I've set that boundary with email. But like, a lot of people will be having a great day, especially if you deal with comparisonitis on Instagram, which is totally a thing. And a lot of people deal with it, right? But like you could be having a great day and like you're feeling good about your energy, your life, all that different stuff. Then you hop on Instagram real quick to just like mindless scroll and you see a post from someone that completely like deflates your awesome balloon, right? So just being aware of what does that for you. Email totally does that for me. I don't know why. But like I freaking can be having a great day and then I get on email and like I get some, just like all these random emails from like random people and stuff that's like not caring or like anything like that. And I'm like, and it just completely deflates my energy too, right? So like be aware of that and set boundaries around that, like I also don't really consume the news very often, if we're honest. My boyfriend makes fun of me for it, but like I tell him to like give me any big updates that like I need to know. But other than that, I will like read a highlight email that I receive once a week. And that's it when it comes to news, because I know I'm protecting my energy from getting sucked into something that I really can't control,
Yeah. And for me, I found like pretty much anything that is communication with other people, it all is like, sure, sometimes it can like really boost my mood and sometimes it can tank it, but I don't know what it's going to do until I open it up. And so it's better to just protect that space and let it have its own little time. And I realized yesterday when I was looking at my schedule, I like to do it right before I have a break. So it's like right before I close for the day or right before I have lunch, because I like to have a dedicated time where I have lunch and I'm not thinking about anything else. And I think the reason for that is because it's like, okay, I can just close it and it can be done. I go off and I'm living my own life and not having to focus on work right after that.
Yeah, for sure, lady.
Um, okay. Anyways, so obviously we could chat forever about all of
Forever.
our 100
I feel like everything we say, we're like, oh, and, you think of other things, but I mean, that's what happens,
yes, and it's all connected. So, but yeah, do you have any other tips like for how to incorporate fun in your business, or like what do you do to have fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like what lights you up, right? So it could be different for everyone, right? But like for me personally, like I love working on feel good social stuff. But when I have like a bunch of clients and stuff like that, it's really easy to get, especially in the beginning, right? Now I think of Feel Good Social as its own client. And I also think of actually the club, my membership, as a separate client than like Feel Good Social too. So like now I think of my own business as two clients plus my other clients. So I like make time and I like validate it and make time for it in my schedule, right? But so I love working my business, and so I take time to work on feel good social stuff. And I also I love designing things. I'm like a self-taught ish like Canva designer person. People have called me like design expert. I'm like, you guys know I didn't go to college for this, right? But like, I love designing things. I think I love taking photos. I love getting creative. And so I allow myself space to get creative. I think that this could be probably applied to your design pattern women as well. It's like, allow yourself time to get creative and create just to create. And, possibly it could turn into a pattern that you want to sell. But if it doesn't, that's okay. Right. I have so many designs in Canva that like I look back at it like those are terrible. I never want to share those with the world. And also like I spent like freaking 3 hours designing this thing that like now I'm embarrassed about, like in a way, like laughing about it in my head. You know what I mean? But like I don't regret that time, right? If I ever feel myself like uh it's all of a sudden 3 in the afternoon and I look back and like after lunch I just spent 3 hours doing quote unquote nothing in my business because I just got sucked into this design that I was trying to create on Canva, but I really should have been doing all these other things that were on my to-do list. But like whatever, I got sucked into it and I had fun with it. I think first, like allowing yourself to do that, get creative for nothing. And then also like not shaming yourself or not regretting it after, right? Because it's so easy to look back on that time and be like, well, I just wasted 3 hours. Like I look back on that time now and I'm like, I just wasted 3 hours, but like it lit me up and it was fun, So that's one of
Yeah,
my best tips, I
a
think.
lot of times my reframe for that is, yeah, sure, I didn't do necessarily what I was planning or wanting to do, but that's what my brain needed at that time. And so, like
Ooh, I love that.
there's a reason why I really wanted to do that. And that's what lit me up. And so, that's fine. And if you don't feel good about it afterwards, it can just be a lesson, like, all right, that
Yeah.
didn't feel good. Next time when I'm tempted to do that, here's how I'm going to address it.
Oh, Rich, I use that all the time, but for myself, I'm like, well, it's a learning experience. Well, that was a learning because then it makes me feel like validated in this giant mistake that I made, or me showing up like super grouchy with someone. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is the learning, or especially it's helpful too when there's something that I have to do that I don't want to do, right? Like have a hard conversation with someone or something like that. Well, this is a learning, growing experience. That's what I always say.
Yes. And I used to like hate that kind of phrase, but it's so true. Like everything we do, we are learning. Like it's just inevitable.
Oh,
So
yes.
you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna have things that aren't fun. But you learn and grow and find how to do more of what you actually do love and enjoy.
Oh my gosh, Brene Brown has this quote that I love that she applies to like anti-racism, but I think it can be applied to like a lot of different things in life, right? And it's I'm here to get it right, not be right. Or maybe it's like the flipped. It's like, I'm not here to be right. I'm here to get it right. Right. So it's like, yeah, like like just accepting that like you don't know everything and that you're just learning as you go. And like, that's totally okay. Like sometimes I use that reframe. I would much, much rather work with someone who wasn't like super stagnant in their opinions and super like, this is how the way it is. And like, I know everything. Like, I don't want to work with that person. Like, I want to work with someone who's like, oh, I see your problem. And like, I'm not quite sure the solution, but let's figure this out. You know what I mean? Versus, nope, no solution, or this is the right answer, but like maybe it's not, you know?
Yes. And I think as soon as we let ourselves out of that confined space of thinking we have to be right and perfect and all of these things, it's so much easier to just relax and enjoy the process. Like, just like, it's okay. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah.
The one other thing I was going to add about having fun in your business is our mutual mentor. She often says when there's something really hard or just boring or whatever you don't enjoy doing, somehow tie in a fun experience with it. So for you, if it's like you hate writing emails, but it's really important to you that you do write the emails, turn on some fun music and take your favorite beverage to drink or whatever, like make it a fun experience, even though it's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true. Cause like, I think I was joking about it with my tax lady. I was like, I don't want to do taxes. And she's like, well, how about we do a co-working session and we drink a glass of wine? I was like, yes, that sounds great. So that totally works, guys.
Yes. And whether it's, making the experience itself more fun or just giving yourself a fun reward at the end, like maybe you can't somehow make this whatever thing you have to do fun, but you can go celebrate somehow and do something special. Then you're not hating it as much because you have something to look forward to.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Kinsey. This was so fun, talking about fun. Part of, why I started the podcast and was like excited to actually start it a lot earlier than I was expecting is because it is something that feels fun for me, because this is a way that I love to share value and content. And I really do believe it'll be valuable for other people. So just a reminder, like whenever you're thinking about whatever you're going to do in your business, like, how do I put this? But basically, I say lean more towards what you're going to enjoy most. I always say, like if you're struggling with creating content in a certain way, how can you reframe it so that it works better for you? So I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but like email specifically is something I've talked about with several different folks. And it's like, they hate writing emails. It just feels so hard to write that content. And so I'm like, okay, does video feel easier? Does talking just to a microphone feel easier? You can just talk it out and send that to them, or you can talk it out and then have the transcription that you sent to them, or, whatever. Anyway, there's so many different ways you can figure out how to have fun in your business and enjoy, pretty much the whole process. So,
yeah.
Kinsey, where can we find you online?
Yay! Thanks so much for having me, lady. I love chatting with you every time we get to do it. You can find me on Instagram at Feel Good Social. I would love to connect with you over there. If you give me a follow, I will totally give you a follow back. Send me a message. Let me know that you came from Jessica's podcast and stuff, so that I'm sure to give you a follow back, because I don't miss all of them. But at Feel Good Social on Instagram. My website is feelgoodsocial.com, and I am host of the Feel Good Social podcast, of which Jessica's about to be a guest at the end of April. Your episode number is episode 118, by the way, for people who are listening to this after that comes out. So look for episode 118. Jess shares all about creativity, and we chat a lot about like marketing on Instagram and stuff like that. So it's a super good one.
Yes. And can you tell us like 2 sentences about the Feel Good Social Club?
Oh, yes. Okay. So the Feel Good Social Club, my online membership for down to earth entrepreneurs who want to create content that's easy, fun, and actually converts. That's my new little like sentence about the club that I'm testing out lately. But basically, Jess is a member. I absolutely love having her in the club as well. But you get access to our content library with Canva templates that are customizable for your brand. I add to that every month. In-depth post prompts with example posts from Feel Good Social, suggested ways to start and end, and an explanation. You get tutorial videos. We have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together to talk about our strategy for the upcoming month as far as content and brainstorm ideas. And then community forums, which are super fun. And our community is just like so full of like non-judgmental, fun-loving, like easygoing folks, like real people. Like that's what I love so much about our community, because we're all just like real with each other. We don't judge each other, and we're just like, heck yeah, lady, like giving each other hugs, giving each other high fives, anything like that. So it's super cool. You can find it at feelgoodsocial.com/club on my website. So
Perfect. Thank you so much.
thanks, Jessica.
Wow. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful and means the world to me. Chat soon.